Can everybody hear me properly?
Yes.
And could you also see my screen here?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So this is going to be a very short session from my side. Thank you everyone for coming. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mamta Saxena, and I'm an assistant professor here in the Department of Human Development. I have been teaching research methods courses since 2016 here at SUNY Oswego. And over the years, I have, kind of like gained some information about my students. What are some of their issues? And what are some of our issues as an instructor, while teaching these courses? So this presentation is more of an experiential, reflective kind of a thing. And what I have tried out in these sessions. So basically, this is what I'm planning on, talking about. So I will talk for almost like 20, 25-ish minutes. And then I want to have a good discussion with everybody. So feel free to chime in if you have a clarifying question for me regarding what I'm presenting. But if you have a very detailed feedback for me or your thoughts on your experiences and anything that you have, feel free to wait until the end of the presentation, because I really want to have a good discussion. Because there are so few participants in it, I'm not going to do certain things that I planned for, so that we can have more of a discussion here. Okay, so here is my presentation roadmap. We're going to talk about a little bit about HDB background, which is human development background, and some of the students and instructor issues that we have courses. I'm going to talk about a little bit about troubleshooting that we did at department level, some of the things that we faced when COVID-19 happened, and some of the things that I have tried out in fall 2020 after hearing a lot after understanding a lot about AQ courses that I've taken, listening to John Kane and all the podcasts that he sends us. So a lot of things that I changed in these courses in fall 2020 to make it more appropriate for our students. So these are some of the changes that I have made, and we will talk all about them. So it will be, we'll go through this. So let me give you a background, and I'm sure you pretty much know. So human development generally approximately has 350 undergrad students. 85% are majors and 15% are minors. So HDB majors have to take 3 methods courses in a sequence. So it's not just one course that they have to take. There are 3 methods courses they have to take, and minors generally take only the first course in the sequence. Just to go over very briefly over the course objectives, the course number 1 is all about gaining information. It's all about learning about various scientific methods, techniques, writing literature reviews. Course number 2 is doing a small study. And then you apply what you have learned in course number 1. So they actually collect data, they analyze data, they write a research paper. All those things are part of course number 2. Then course number 3 is a capstone project where they have to design and actually evaluate an intervention program. So some people carry, they carry on with the same topic from course number 1 to 2 to 3. And some students do not, depending on who the student is. But I definitely, in my classes, I encourage them to use the same topic just so that they can, deep dive into the topic that they took or they studied or, read about in course number 1. Now, all these courses are 4 credits each. They are research, statistics, and writing intensive. They all have a laboratory component, and the student enrollment is capped at 19. So this is just a basic background of all of these courses that we have in HDB. Now, some of the issues that we have faced as instructors and our students have faced, students are very reluctant to enroll in these courses. They actually come to human development from psychology and other departments thinking that human development is pretty much common sense. It's an easy, whatever the courses they're going to take, they're going to be easy. However, when they come here, they realize that they have to take 3 methods courses. And that's something that pulls them away from human development classes. They also do not like that there are too many objectives, they're lofty, writing assignments. They have problems with they're frustrated. They also do not have mathematical background, good mathematical background. Many of them were never good at math. At least that's the thing that they say to us, that I was never good at math. And they had lots of issues while writing and while understanding some of the statistics things that we discuss. When it comes to instructors, a lot of instructors also do not want to teach these courses. Because the students are not that motivated. They show attitude and they have lots of anxieties. And it has also been seen, not only in our department, but also in research, that any instructor that teaches quantitative courses, they definitely have lower ratings by students. Now, here is something that also we kind of understood, that a lot of instructors teach only course number 1, they don't teach 2 and 3. Okay. And a lot of instructors teach only number 3, but they don't teach 1 and 2. And because these courses build upon each other, and if you're not teaching all the 3 courses in the sequence, you do not understand student expectations. You do not understand what students know. You do not understand what students are capable of. And that basically results in mark discrepancy. Like, for example, if you don't teach course number 3, you don't focus on a lot of things that will be helpful in course number 3 and course number 1 and 2, right? And that creates a lot of instructional inconsistencies in the department. The third thing that has also been seen is instructor effects, which basically means, because we were trained differently, we all were trained differently, we all teach differently. So we focus or emphasize certain topics, and we don't focus and emphasize other topics. So that's what we have also seen in the department, that some people would focus on certain topics and other people would focus on other topics. So there were all these issues going on. So with student issues and instructor issues, it made pretty apparent to us that we need to do something about it. Our students are not doing well, our faculty is not doing well when it comes to methods courses. So what we did at the department level in fall of 2017, we actually standardized these courses. Just to maintain some consistencies across sections, just to maintain some consistencies across courses. So we definitely sat down, all the faculty members, we sat down, we discussed each and everything in detail. Then we also integrated some of the common exams, and that was worth 25%. Something that we did to add rigor was to divide every course content into 3 components. The first component is writing, the second was statistics, and the third one was method. And it was weighted equally, just so that every instructor emphasized it equally. Because what we noticed was, like, some people were good at statistics, and therefore they would pass the course simply because of the statistics component. Some people were good at writing, and they would pass the course simply because of the writing part. So we wanted every student to have the same skills, just so that they can do well in course number 3 when the stakes are pretty high, and their graduation can be at stake if they do not pass that course. So that's what we did.
Can I ask a question of clarification quickly?
I'm glad you were asking.
So that sounds really interesting, to divide the content into those 3 different components. I just want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. You all did that for each course itself. So even if, like, maybe statistics were a little bit more central to the 3rd class, you still incorporated that in the first 2.
That is correct.
Okay, that's great. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And of course, 15% of the grade, as you know, was instructor discretion. You can do presentations, you want to do something else, extra credit, whatever you want to do, you can incorporate into those classes. Now, after doing this in fall of 2017, we definitely saw an improvement in student success. Our students were doing much better in capstone projects. Like, before fall of 2017, they were in a capstone, the course number 3, and they would not know simple things like what is an independent variable and dependent variable. And that was actually, a wake-up call that our students need to do very well, and we need to add more rigor to our course number 1 and 2, so that their graduation is not at stake in course number 3. Okay, when it came to spring 2020, while all this was going on, we definitely saw that our methods courses were most negatively impacted. There were definitely accessibility issues, accessibility in terms of access to SPSS. Students did not have proper laptops. Students did not have proper resources that they can access online. And therefore, we as instructors, we all were also learning new things, how to present these courses online. So most of the professors in our department, they actually did asynchronous teaching style. So I remember, getting all these emails from John, and I started using Screencast-O-Matic. I would record these lectures, I would record them at home and basically post them on Blackboard. Of course, there were some issues with that. A lot of students, because they were going through mental health issues, they were going through, there was no structure and engagement, like day-to-day class structure and engagement. We saw that the average class grade went down by 2 grades. And students would not respond. Go ahead, Emily. Do you have a question? I thought you were talking.
It was just a wow.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
a lot. I didn't want to do a thumbs up because that seemed like not appropriate, but like, wow, that's significant.
Yeah. And so students were failing. I mean, of course, with some students, we had to let them slide also. I'll be honest with you. We saw what they were doing before before we closed down everything and after. So, and if they were kind of like in touch with us, we definitely let them slide also. I actually had to basically take away some of my assignments because I realized that things that work in face-to-face would not work through Screencast-O-Matic. Now that led, because all of these issues happened, that led to some of the changes that I made in fall of 2020. So the biggest thing that I had to decide was, what is the modality going to be? Synchronous, asynchronous, hybrid, and I chose for online synchronous. The reason why I chose for online synchronous was because I wanted structure. Research methods courses, I realized, need constant engagement, structure, instant feedback, and all those things. So I thought online synchronous would work really, really well. And that is why I chose that. Again, I used to also record all my lectures, with online synchronous classes, whatever classes I had, and I would also post them on Blackboard. So if somebody missed it for some reason, if they did not understand for some reason, or I was going too fast for them, they can at least, go over it. So it did provide, in that sense, it did provide some temporal flexibility and inclusivity in that sense. Now, something that I want to say is with research methods courses is the first year of the class really sets the tone. And this is what I have noticed in every class, because students are scared. In course number 1, course number 2, course number 3, it doesn't matter. They are extremely, extremely scared in the first day, and they are anxious. So your syllabus and the content, the way we provide stuff, it actually sets the tone. So this is what I have learned from all the things that I have attended and all the courses that I have taken on best practices in teaching, that the syllabus needs to be pretty detailed. So my syllabus is 18 pages, and it also has graphic illustrations. So like it has memes, it has a lot of other content as well, but you can see how I have arranged it. They need to see what my course objectives are with every day when they are in my class. These are the topics that will be discussed. My theory topics always align with things in the lab that we're going to do. And then they also know their responsibilities for each week. So they know where to submit, when to submit, everything is there. Now, this kind of a schedule, I have realized over the years, and it was never like that. It was kind of like pretty plain and simple initially. But I have realized that students go back to their syllabus again and again, because the common problem that instructors say is that the students do not read their syllabus. And with this kind of a format, they go back to their syllabus every week. Okay, what are we going to do next week? What are we going to do next week? Kind of a thing. And so I also added COVID-19 statement in my syllabus, and pretty much, in a firm language, I said the expectations are not going to be lower for these courses because we are going through COVID-19. I'm here to give you support. I'm going to help you with everything. I can be flexible with certain things, but the expectations are still remain the same because that message needed to be given to our students. Now, I know John did talk about promise syllabus and Gannon syllabus, and he talks about Gannon actually talks about issues of inclusivity and accessibility. So far, my syllabus is definitely a work in progress, and it does not adhere to UDL principles of UDL yet. I need to work on it. I need to get rid of these tables that I have. I need to think about colors and contrast and all the pictures that I use in my syllabus. So I'm still working on making my syllabus more accessible, which is definitely needed, or maybe have like 2 copies of the syllabus. So it's a work in progress in that sense. The third thing, unless you have any clarifying questions, Andrea, Emily.
I don't, they're not questions of clarification, but I have a running list. So
Sure.
when you're done,
Nope.
we can.
Yeah.
Do you? Yeah. Okay. I have a list that we can get to for discussion later.
Perfect. Now, this is something very interesting that I thought about for years, and how to present any information in research methods classes, because students want repetition, right? And what we have realized over the years is also that less is more when it comes to research methods classes. So what I did was I actually combined 2 theoretical frameworks. One is, of course, Bloom's taxonomy, which we all know about. And another one is something that's called, it's actually from human development field. It's called PIPE. It's the instructional model of partners in parenting education. Generally, when you go to Head Start programs, you teach parents how to work with their own babies and toddlers. They follow a certain instructional model. And because I have worked in Head Start programs, I really like this model because I think it works very well with adults. So the first thing that you do in every session, if we go by this model, is basically present the objectives and details of the topic. So it's basically a lecture kind of a thing for 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes approximately. And then you try to demonstrate, right? So for example, if in theory class, we're talking about levels of measurement like ordinal, nominal, all those things, the demonstration would basically mean SPSS, demonstrating how to change things in SPSS. What would change once you do, you change the levels in SPSS? What would it do? So that's the demonstration part. The third thing is you give them some kind of individual activities to work on. So basically give them a list of 15 variables, and now they have to figure out on their own, either in a group or individually, what the level of measurement is of these variables. And then finally, of course, there would be some kind of feedback from them that I'm going to collect. Could be a cognitive wrapper activity, could be some kind of simple things like clear, what is the most clearest point, what is the most muddiest point, something like that for 15 minutes. So what I've realized is that if we follow this pattern for every topic, it works really well. And I do not get many emails that ask me questions like, oh, I did not understand that. Oh, I did not understand that. Could you repeat that? Because they have already repeated in the class 2 or 3 or 4 times, and they have asked all their questions, and it does improve student engagement. That's what I noticed. Some few things that I do to do the lecture is, of course, there are some music videos. I'm not going to show this video. I'm going to have it in my, but there are some nice songs about means and averages and, regression on YouTube, and all the statistics things that they're rap songs actually. So just to make the class more fun, I add all of these things in the mix, just throw it in the mix so that we can, they can be engaged. This is basically a 4-step model. If you can see, look at this picture. This is a 4-step model. And this is what I do in each step, right? And then what I have done is I have also kind of like organized some of the Zoom tools that can be helpful for each step. And then I've also figured out some of the other tools that can be helpful for each step while teaching statistics courses or research methods courses. So for example, for demonstration, if I have to do a drawing, I can use a whiteboard, right? John told us about dark camera. Those are some of the things. Like if I want to do some kind of a group activity or individual activity, I can do a Jamboard. I can definitely chat. We can have polls in Zoom. So there are some of these tools which are very, very, I find them very interesting how they can be used over here. Now, something that I have not worked on, but definitely I'm planning on working on in the next semester is giving them certificates and awards. After certain milestones and after they have completed certain activities, we can give them a certificate. Okay, completion of this part. Or I can name that certificate, whatever that, excellence in or satisfactory performance in, XYZ. So that is something I'm going to work on. And I know certificates and awards can be given through Blackboard. So I know there is a part in there which is called achievements, and we can provide certificates and awards through that. Okay, I see that there is something in the chat. Sorry, I didn't notice before if you were. Okay. Yes, John Kane said that, yes. Okay, I'm going to, so that was my instructional model that I followed. Of course, another thing that I have tried is something that's called gamified approach to teaching these courses, because students always say that these courses are boring, dry, abstract, we don't understand, there is no fun in it. So I do have some gamified approaches. And over the years, I have recognized some of these things. I have collected some of these things that really help them in understanding understanding some of the abstract concepts. Like for example, decision tree is something I love at the end. Like at the end, the last day of class is a decision tree class where we build a decision tree on the whiteboard. You come up with all these ideas. You want to do this, you're going to go here. You create a flow chart. Um, um, and that has helped students make connections on the last day of the class. Can we do it in the middle or initially? Of course, yes. In the initial part of the semester, yes. But I generally do the decision tree on the last day of the class, just so that everything comes together. Okay. Oh, looks like yeah. And then of course I did talk about digital badges and things. I'm sorry, about assessments and feedback. Of course, we know that we need to give them tons and tons of feedback when it comes to writing, when it comes to statistics. It definitely adds rigor. So my classes have kind of like 25 assignments, which are low to medium stake assignments, and then 10 high stake assignments. So that makes it almost 35. On some occasions, depending on my cohort, it can also become 40 to 45, depending on what we are doing and how the cohort feels about it. It becomes 40 to 45 as well, which basically means there is a lot of grading that I need to do. And there's a higher student anxiety also because they're also very busy. So for me personally, I need to figure out what assignments are the most useful ones and what assignments can I get rid of. But over the years, I have noticed that I am adding assignments and not taking them away simply because my students need more and more repetition and more practice. Okay, OER resources, we know that students, if they do not have access to, books, softwares, it will definitely make them not function well in class. So for the purposes of our lab, I created a workbook. And this workbook is called Introduction to Statistics and Writing in Behavioral and Social Sciences. This was created, I started working on it in 2017. I also received a grant to work on it. And this is an open educational resource that is available to all my students and to anybody who's interested in using this book. So feel free to ask me if you need that book. You know, some of the accomplishments that I have had is that this semester with course number 2, if you remember, I said that we need to collect data in course number 2. So my students collected data on 500 participants to study the impact of COVID-19 on family routines, disruptions, coping, and stress. And that was a huge achievement. You know, so it was a group project that they did. So everybody was given the study to work on. And of course, the IRB approval was completed prior to the beginning of the semester. But this study actually brought a lot of relevance because they always question, why am I studying this course, Mamta? Because it is not relevant to my study, to my life. So this study actually helped them understand the relevance of research methods. Another student, she actually, on her project, she received a grant of $1,000, and she is still collecting more data, and she's planning on publishing her findings by March, basically. That's her plan. And this is pretty much my last one. So my goal is now to start basically make my courses more accessible. That's what I'm going to start doing. And I also want to lower assignment burden on students and faculty. So I have to figure out what I'm going to do about that. I'm going to continue using topics such as COVID-19 and more contemporary topics. I'm going to continue with 4-step instructional model that works pretty well, and any latest methods that come in. And I do need to stop using some kind of that contractual language that I have in my syllabus, or change it to more friendly language without giving mixed messages. You know, I want to have rigor, but yet it can be said it in a more friendly way, which it is right now, which it is not there right now. So it is still a little bit of a contract type of a language. And I did learn from John that, you know, it's a good idea to not have that contract type of language. So I'm going to work on that. So that was the end of my things. Thank you so much for listening. I'm sorry I was going too fast, but I'm happy to talk now. Go ahead, please. Anybody who has questions, any experiences you want to share, any feedback for me, feel free to, please.
Hi, Mom. So this is Michelle Bishop. I am one of the librarians here at Oswego on campus. And just thank you for the presentation. I always like to learn more about what faculty are doing in terms of teaching research and research methods. So I just wondered, did you work with a librarian for any of these courses? Did you get that librarian support?
Yes. So with course number 1, I did spoke with the librarian in 2016. For a couple of years, the librarian would come to our classes in the lab, and they would actually talk about APA, how to search for articles, and all those things. But then after that, I started doing it myself. So anytime a student has a lot of issues, I do send them to the library, yes. But for a couple of years, I actually invited them as a guest speakers, which I stopped after a while. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for this, Mamta. It was really, really helpful. I loved so much of what you said and how you said it. Very well organized presentation. I have a few questions. So I'm a new faculty member here at SUNY Oswego. I've taught research methods a couple of times at my previous institution. Never online, of course, and not the specific iteration that I'll be doing this spring. I'm actually most excited about what I'm going to be doing this spring. So that's good for me and hopefully good for the students. Some of my questions are kind of specific to the institution, issues that I'm sure that you and others may have worked through. Did you have your students do any type of IRB training at some point in the semester during one of the sequences?
Yes.
Who do I contact for that?
So it's really easy for methods courses. They just have to do, you know, I think 4 or 5. There's a whole course module specifically for students who are taking methods courses.
Okay.
So yes, so it is available. And as Andrea, actually you do have a website as well available to you now. So, and basically it's very, very easy. Now, so you have to take the IRB training, but you do not have to get IRB approval.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So that is
Yes. Yeah.
important to remember, because IRB approval used to take a little longer earlier. So for
Right.
methods courses, because they're just practicing, they're not going to get it published anywhere. They do not have to. But because in my case, I was planning on publishing all the data that would be collected. And especially because they're collecting data on 500 people, which I never thought they would be able to, but they did.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. So I thought, so I took the IRB approval before, but they do not have to. And there are
Okay.
programs, modules specifically for method students.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at the website. I presume, well, it's just one of those things, you have to get familiar with when you transition to a new institution. Like, who do I talk to and where do I point students? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And for the website, Andrea.
Yeah, Emily, if it's okay, I teach our research methods course in COM, and I'm also on IRB. I'm one of the members of IRB.
Oh,
so we've done we have 2 resources I shared in the chat. We also have we've done a Navigating the HSC CELT workshop, and that recording is online. We did one in the fall and we did one last week. So we have a guidance document for, like, if you design, like Mamta has, how to make it be truly a classroom project. You don't have to go submit things, but still have your students do the training. They're going to need it when they do data collection. But that classroom project checklist, if there's any, like if you plan on Quest, or like how Mamta had her student go and, get a grant or is going to publish, they need to have HSC approval. So that checklist is really going to come in handy as you design things. And then the city training is really easy to do. There's a, classroom projects one, and probably like Mamta does, we just make it a class assignment. Psych does the same as well. And we have like a step-by-step guide of like how to make your account. Click here, click here, click here, add this, right? Follow up with your instructor. They may have different courses they want you to take, but we've tried really hard to make sure that that information is there. So,
awesome.
Yeah. Something I'm going to piggyback on what Andrea was saying,
great.
Emily, is, you have to make a decision whether you want students to choose their topics or you want to give them a topic. And I personally have realized over the years that giving them a topic is a little better than letting them choose, because especially in course number 2, we actually go really fast. So I want their literature reviews to be done by the first month of the semester, within a month. So if you're going to do that fast, you have to give them a lot of support. Otherwise they will need a lot of time to basically figure out a topic and then research studies and then
to flounder, basically.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit.
Not have that topic at all by by the end of first month of the semester.
That's a really great. Yeah.
So you have to think about it. What works for you and your students.
Yeah, it's tough because you do want to give them some discretion and you want to have them have ownership over the project that they're working on. And at the same time, sometimes they just don't know how to ask a question, or they don't know how to focus their topic. And that's such a good point. Yeah. And maybe even a matter of like giving them a list to choose from.
That is true.
So that they have a little bit, and then giving them the option of, if none of these seem interesting, or if you have another idea, like, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
This is great. Something
that I did in this class was, when you're talking about, student having their own autonomy, basically, so we collected data on almost like 8 or 9 variables. They could choose their variables for data analyses. So that's the choice they had. And one of the students said, I do not want to study COVID-19 at all, Mamta. I want to study something else. And then I said, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
But it really, kind of like helps me help them. I kind of like think it this way, that I need help to help them. Mm-hmm. And that is something important.
Yeah. We did the last time I taught research methods, it was quantitative. And the university that I was at before, it had its own survey research center. So like a phone bank where people who worked there called, a random sample of North Carolinians. And my class actually, like, we came up with a topic for one of their assignments. They each had to submit survey questions,
Mhm.
different types. Those survey questions made it onto the survey.
Yeah.
And then they had to work at the survey research center and like cold call people. And that was a neat thing. We at least as I'm not aware of, we don't have that resource here. And I'm teaching qualitative, which I actually like
Yeah.
better. But it was neat, like giving them that ability to kind of pick and choose within parameters, right?
Sure.
Like they need that guide.
Correct.
I have other questions.
Sure, please feel free
I'm
to.
sorry. I don't
No,
want to
please.
monopolize our time. And this is kind of related, not related necessarily to research methods specifically. John, I don't know, like if there's something out there that Kelt has put together. Does anybody have a Zoom policy on their syllabi? I taught online asynchronous last semester, and I'm doing synchronous this semester for the first time. And I've put together a few things, kind of piecemealed syllabi that I found online and best practices. And I just know that I've probably forgotten a ton.
Yeah.
We don't have anything formal on that. We should
Okay.
probably, but Kelly Hogan and Vijay Sathi at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, have several documents and suggestions on language there. And they had an article in the Chronicle last summer, I believe, or last fall on Zoom policy that addressed a lot of those things.
Okay. I did not come across those in my Googling.
I'll find it and put it in the chat.
Oh, thank you so much. Can you send me, I really liked your figure 1 4-step instructional model. I'm not sure if you created that or if you altered it from another source. It was really, really great. What I liked about it is that it was very thorough, but also not overwhelming. I've looked at a lot of things recently about how to effectively engage students through Zoom and the different technology platforms. The ed tech thing that John did last week was really, really great. But sometimes it just feels like there's so many options out there. It's
Yeah.
like, what the heck? It's just a little overwhelming. And this was really great.
Thank you. So this is the model. The steps are definitely adapted from the pipe model that
Right.
I
Okay.
showed it to you. And I have seen this pipe model in working because I used to evaluate early Head Start program. So I would evaluate how staff is working with parents who are working with their children, infants and toddlers, So I used to coach actually staff, to basically utilize this model to its full. So I really loved it. I also realized that AQ does it pretty much the same way. Like what they also do. I don't know if you took any AQ courses, Emil. Are you part of AQ at all? Okay.
No, it's on my to-do list to like figure out what the heck it is.
Yeah.
Like it was referenced in some meeting I went to in the fall. And I just have never followed up on it, but it is on a list. So it will get done at some point.
It's actually very good because they kind of like, this is exactly what they do. They do some form of lecture, then they will show you a video, then they will make you do an exercise, and they will wrap it up. I just do it in a synchronous manner, applying what I have learned from AQ and from Pipe, So this is what I came up with. And I basically figured out all the Zoom tools that would help me with each step. And that is something that helps me. So in 90% of my sessions, synchronous sessions, I utilize this model. There would be few sessions where you're just talking about literature reviews completely, where you may or may not use one of the steps. But in 95, maybe I use this model. And I know it takes a while, but my students have solid learning after this. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah. Well, and this is very similar to what I tend to do in the classroom already, but I've never thought about it in terms of those steps. Like I call them mini lectures. I never really talk more than 10 or 15 minutes at a time because then I'm just basically talking to myself. and then I do a lot of the active learning. I just like the concrete steps and then the tools that you have associated with them.
Thank
And,
you.
I think it's nice. It keeps them engaged, right? Because you're doing something different and you're moving. And if this is what they can expect, consistency is big.
Right.
And so if they know kind of what the formula is
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
any given class period, I think that will work.
Yeah.
Oh,
And, with the last step, and this is how I have changed over the years. For the last step, I would never put people on spot. I would never say, okay, uh, you tell me with the names, but after taking the AQ course, I mean, AQ really actually encouraged me to start putting my students on spot and asking them, okay, what do you think about it? What do you think about it? Because initially I thought maybe I shouldn't make them anxious about answering questions. But then with research methods, you want to know whether they understand it or not. You have to be pretty direct. So in that sense, research methods courses are a little different than other courses that I teach. And I'm not that, form or structured in other courses that much. But with research methods, they need clarity. And the structure brings that clarity.
yeah. Well, and I feel like the way that this is set up, even if you put them, on the spot towards the end, you're doing it in a very safe, gentle way because they
Yes.
have the opportunity to reflect individually or with a group to discuss. They're practicing it before they put it on the big stage of the whole classroom.
Right.
And that seems really effective
Yeah.
to me
Thank you.
as well.
More
Do you
questions?
do you
Please,
use a
Emily, please
textbook?
feel free to.
Do you use a textbook along with the workbook that you created, or is it just all the workbook?
So we do have a textbook for the theory class. Workbook is for the lab, right? What I noticed was when I was looking for a workbook that there was only one book, a workbook that was available, and it didn't fit our students at all. Because, psychology departments, they teach things differently than us. Their examples are different than us. So what I realized was that workbook is not going to work. So I started creating worksheets myself. And because our students also need a lot of foundational questions, when you go to Bloom's taxonomy, the level 1, level 2 questions, just so that they can apply. In my workbook, I actually have a lot of foundational questions, like simple things like, what does SPSS stand for? Simple things, very, very simple things. What is a mean? Under what conditions you would use mean? Like simple, basic, critical thinking questions, so that they can actually really apply and evaluate things. Because our students do not have a good foundation sometimes. That was another issue that I noticed.
And so how many credit hours how many credit hours are each of the courses, the 3 methods courses?
4.
Oh, okay. I think you probably mentioned that. I'm
That's
sorry. And it
That's
just
okay.
didn't sink in or something. So they have like a 3-hour theory course and then a 1-hour lab course. They're 4 hours.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's
Yeah.
different than what we have in sociology.
And
Okay.
and we also have, like, in psychology and other departments, what I've noticed is they do research as
Mhm.
course number 1, and they do statistics as course number 2. What we do is we have all the 3 components in every course, and we
Mhm.
build on each component.
Mhm.
And that is another difference that you might notice.
That's good.
Yeah.
Um, did you, when you taught last semester, have students do any type of engagement like outside the classroom? I'm teaching qualitative methods, and right now the assessments, the way that I have them structured, they'll be doing several, they're called trying it out exercises, TO exercises, where they do like little mini participant observations or little mini interviews. And I'm wondering how that translates in the era of COVID. If you found yourself having to work around that at all.
Yeah. So not in my research methods courses, but definitely in my diversity course. Like, for example, I want them to observe how accessible a shopping mall is, or how accessible the parking lot of that mall is. So just go over there, look at people, where the handicap parking is, go inside the store, look at how things are placed. So they're just observing without touching anything, without talking to anyone. And that also does not require any kind of IRB approval. So those are some of the things that I have done where they can just sit down in a safe place without people around them, and they can just observe. So that can be any behavior, like behavior of people, at a traffic light. You park yourself at some good place, some good spot. And of course, safety has to be first. And it can be converted into a research data collection project.
Yeah, that makes sense because it's quantitative. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, because it's quantitative.
Oh, so you were looking for a qualitative one?
Well, I mean, I just think that with a qualitative research methods course, it would lend itself more to being in the public and engaging in ways that a quantitative method wouldn't, because you're, collecting data, and that can all be done remotely and all of that. So yeah, this is good. I'm excited. I'm really, really excited to teach this next semester. I think I need to keep in mind the lofty course objectives that you talked about, like, make sure that the students and I are kind of on the same page, and, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. No, definitely. And feel free to write to me if you need anything, you want me to sit down with you and we can brainstorm or pick each other's brain, just basically thinking about how to do this. You're welcome to. You're very welcome.
I will definitely take you up on that. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
So I'm done with my list of questions.
Andrea, Michelle, Karen, if you have any questions for me, or if you have any experiences to share, please feel free to.
Yeah, I just added to chat that librarians do work one-on-one with students. So if I understand there's pressure in terms of time and delivering the content, but we do spend a lot of time with students one-on-one, just helping them to develop their research topics. And I actually find I spend a lot of time with upperclassmen, especially, just helping them to kind of navigate and guide them with the research. So we're very willing to help them with that part of it too.
Okay. Yeah. No,
well, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, Michelle, when you joined, I immediately recognized your name, but I couldn't place you. You're the sociology liaison, and I sent a student to you in the fall semester, a research assistant who's working for me. And so I have it on my to-do list to reach out to the library. I would like to get a day scheduled to have someone come in to talk about how to search the database, how to do references, and then I will certainly direct students to you to help them, because I'm going to have them do a proposal. And so, that one-on-one instruction, I think, will be really helpful for them. Oh,
Yeah,
yay, great.
Yeah, you can send your students. If not me, someone else will be able to work with them. But I think one of the things that we want to communicate, I know that time is definitely an issue in terms of delivering your content. So just know that there are different ways to work along with librarians. And I think, like I said before, I've had a lot of success working with upperclassmen, and they have very, unique research needs. And sometimes it works better just for them to sit with the librarian one-on-one.
Yeah, to build on that, Emily, just because Michelle was talking, I didn't want her to have to turn her focus. There is a library instruction form. I've been really trying to make sure the librarians are able to come to classes. But another thing that I found for our research methods course, there was a LibGuide created. So you can even consider things like that, being able to have an up-to-date LibGuide with all the different sections that you can link in your Blackboard and share. And then like for ours, we had changed the course number a few years back. So when I found the LibGuide like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, oh, we have one. Oh, it's on the wrong course. So no one would ever know or see. And so I've been working with our liaison for that. So number one, like if you can, but even a LibGuide, like, you know, it makes sense with Mopto. The one thing I wanted to say is I'm just so envious that you get to break it out in a sequence and you have a lab. We have one research methods course. So
Okay.
I have to do like and again, just like your students, people come to comm because psych was too hard. And what do you mean you do stats in comm? I skipped that section of any research. And you're like, ah. So I have to really think like, okay, if this is the only chance they get, can I at least get them competent with things? So it's already like, I gave up on teaching stats after my first year here because I was like, we don't know. Or like,
Yeah.
I just want you to know you can't call everything an experiment and there's times you need to know numbers. Like, let's go to the basics. I'm really jealous of that, but I think what you're getting at is really the importance of having as many resources as possible. You know, even if they've taken those courses before, they might not remember it, different levels of instruction, personal fear, anxiety, they see numbers, they freak out, right? So I'm just glad you shared so many resources, and I'm glad Michelle was here to remind us of those other resources, because that's the thing, right? Start to finish, they need to have all these things at their fingertips and really leverage those resources. So, you know, thanks for putting this together and, you know, encouraging some questions. I wish I had them. I think it's just a lot of like a little envy and then like, okay, so I'm not the only one that experiences the struggles, and some like shared bonding of, yes, the students get here and they're like, well, I thought comm would be easy. And you're like, it's still an academic area of study.
But Andrea and Emily, what you are going through is actually pretty much in research. I do not have my list of reference here, but I can send you that article. It says that actually teaching research methods courses can be killing the career paths of junior faculty, because the student ratings are going to be low. There's so much of anxiety. And so there is an empirical evidence for all these things. So what we are going through. And my first year was tough here, I'll be honest. Not because I was teaching research methods courses, but I had to adapt. So I have taught at University of Connecticut, and I had to adapt to our student population. And that adaptation resulted in whatever you are seeing now that we need to do. But there was a lot of adaptation that I had to do just to reach out to students properly.
Yeah, which, you know, I can, on one hand, appreciate how challenging a research methods course might be to like the career trajectory of junior faculty. And at the same time, like, I really like teaching methods.
Me too.
This is where you get to see what it is we do with our research. And are you kidding me? Like, this is where you get to really apprentice. This is your opportunity. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. And so they just need to get on board with it, right? Like,
I agree. I love it. I love teaching courses and thinking about them, how to teach them effectively.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. Yeah.
So how much time do we have, John?
We're a little over time, but there's time for another minute or two.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize.
Oh, that's okay. We have a 10-minute buffer in there, so.
Okay. So thank you everyone for coming, and thank you for listening to me. Please stay in touch, and we can definitely sit down with each other and help each other while we are teaching research methods courses.
Okay.
So
thank you so much. This was great.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you all soon.
Yeah, we will.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. That was really good.
Thank you, John. And I'm writing the paper, so I'm going to publish it soon too.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to exit to render the video, and I'll